Oh, what? Let's turn off myself. Okay, good morning. My name is Jennifer Turner. I think most of the people in the room know who I am because you're on my invitation / China Environment Mafia list. But there are a couple, like one or two new people, so I'm always obligated to say welcome to the Woodrow Wilson Center. Been around since the Wilson Center was created in 1968 as a memorial to our 28th president. Yeah, that's right, you've never heard this spiel. Most people could kind of, someone will listen. And, in that spirit, bringing together policy and scholarly folks. And in some ways, today's speakers really kind of exemplify the spirit of the Wilson Center because these two gentlemen, good friends of mine from Hong Kong, are researchers that do very applied work focused on the topic of my main passion, China's environment. Today we have, the topic of our meeting is one country, two systems, one environment, since China Environment Forum is known for its puns, looking at environmental cooperation in Hong Kong and Guangdong. And we have two people here who have done, some of the scholarly types who have actually focused on this issue for quite a long time. And I was joking with them today that when I was in PhD land, like the first time I met Yok-Shiu when he was at the East-West Center, you were out there in 1989 to 1996, and I was there like in 92, and I was like so excited, PhD students are kind of nerdy. You get excited when you meet your heroes. Then I got to meet Carlos when I was on my way going into China to do my dissertation work, and he and other researchers in Hong Kong really kind of encouraged me because this was in 1994, and I didn't really have any guanxi in China to do my water policy research, but at least I felt like I had a support crew back in Hong Kong who were encouraging me. I guess formally, just to let you know that Carlos Wing-Hung Lo is a professor at Hong Kong Polytechnic Department of Market and Management. He's been there since 1990, moving up the ranks. Now a full professor, I believe. No chance of being fired anytime soon. And in fact, Carlos and Yok-Shiu both have like really terrifyingly long resumes with great research. Showing how much research they've done over the years. Carlos focused his research on Chinese legal system, environmental management in Hong Kong and China. And intriguingly to me is also kind of a cutting-edge issue of looking at corporate social responsibility in China, and of course the cross-strait environmental management. And that's, as you can see from up here, that's one thing that they're going to talk about, this project that they're working on now on cross-border environmental protection. Yok-Shiu is an associate professor at the University of Hong Kong Department of Geography, and he's done, again, a lot of work on the cross-strait issue, starting looking at initially on a lot of city issues. Right, urban development, and he wrote for me a couple of years ago on water short cities in China, and he's going to be talking today, focusing more on some of the water issues. He's been working with a great water researcher in Guangdong at the South China Institute for Environmental Research. They've been looking at integrated river basin management for the Dongjiang River and looking at what this kind of water cooperation, what implication it has for Hong Kong Guangdong cooperation. Other area of his research, because some people, if you're in the Q&A, you will answer any questions. Yok-Shiu has focused a lot on environmental consciousness in China and surveys of environmental awareness. So, with that said, I think because we are a small room, it's always nice for you guys to know who's here. Yeah. Right? I'm going to pass the mic. Just please quickly say your name and affiliation. Not long history, okay? And we are in webland, which is why we have to use the mic.
Lyndon Ellis, Jennifer Turner's assistant at the China Environment Forum.
我也姓罗，罗海莲, Helen Raphael. I'm with Resources for the Future.
Hi, I'm Steve Wolfson. I'm with EPA's legal office.
Hi, I'm Michael Buffard. I'm from American University.
Hi, I'm John Liu. I'm from Yale University.
Hi, I'm Yating Zhuang. I'm with University of Maryland.
Hi, hello, I'm Poiman Wang. I'm with the US EPA in the China Program Office of International Affairs.
I'm Marta McClellan. I'm with the U.S.-China Economic and Security Review Commission.
My name is Susan Brown. I'm with the U.S. EPA's Enforcement Office.
Howard Wiarda from CSIS.
Alex Posmosky from Georgetown University.
Erica Scull from American University. Hi, I'm Katie Jones. I'm from Georgetown University.
Hi, I'm Olivia Chatayat from Georgetown University.
Hi, I'm Mark Kaisman from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, Senior Development Advisor in the Office of International Affairs.
Derek Fulmer from the National Academy of Sciences.
I'm Frida Fong from Environmental Defense Fund.
Rose Chen from the Rose Group for Cross-Cultural Understanding.
Monty McGee, I'm one of the interns here at the forum.
Hi, I'm Fan Fang. I'm also one of the interns here.
Hi, I'm Li Mao for Science and Technology Daily.
And not one of my interns. And just the last two folks here.
Anna Menepace with Inter-American Development Bank.
Okay, great.
I'm intern here. I'm Kathy Tai.
I have a lot of interns. Okay, so why don't we start off? I think that Carlos is starting us off, and he likes the mobile mic too.
Thank you. I think I better stand up here. This side. This side.
Either way.
So, good morning to everybody. So, we are pleased to be here to talk about our research project on the cross-border environmental protection between Hong Kong and Guangdong province, and also to talk about some of our preliminary findings. Actually, we are very grateful for such an invitation from Jennifer, so we are glad to be here. So this project, we have received quite a large amount of money, from, at least from Hong Kong's perspective, and we have been working on this project for quite a while. So this is why we would like to particularly present this project and some of our research finding here. And this project, we consider that it has some more implication because it touched on the relatively undeveloped area on cross jurisdictions environmental collaborations. So we structured this morning seminar like this. I will talk about our project, give an overview of it, and then I'll talk also introduce our perspective in studying cross-border environmental protection and the situation between Hong Kong and Guangdong in cross-border collaboration. And we come to a specific case. We have just completed our research study on Dongzhuang water management. So, and Dr. Wisely will specifically talk about our research work and some of our preliminary findings.
Okay.
So,
and just make sure you keep the mic.
Okay, I will try to.
Yeah.
So
step away if you're going to have slides.
Oh, yeah.
I think this one is better.
Yeah.
So
there we go.
Actually, as I mentioned, that we work together under this project, cross-border environmental protections. The nature of this project, this is cross-border environmental policy research, not purely academics in some sense. We hope to have academic publication, but actually we hope to achieve some policy implication. We invite government officials from both Hong Kong and China to join our regular workshop, seminar, and also we send them our paper and also the report to them so that they have some ideas about cross-border environmental protection. So this project is funded by the Public Policy Research Institute at the Hong Kong Polytechnic University. And the focus is on the Hong Kong's emerging effort to address seriously the cross-border environmental protection issues. Obviously, Hong Kong's situation is quite special because it's less, most of environmental impacts come from the other side of the border. Actually, Hong Kong can do very little to do it. So it has aspired for some cross-border collaboration so that Guangdong province can do some things to relieve our environmental problems. And the research theme, we picked cross-border environmental protection problem and possible collaboration across the border as our theme of study. And the research effort, I'm proud to say that it is mainly an inter-varsity and cross-border research collaboration, not only among research university in Hong Kong, we have collaboration also in the US. And contribution, as I mentioned, that cross-jurisdiction environmental protection has not been fully studied. And that's a problem, an area that increasingly draw attention because we all know that environmental pollution is cross-border issues, so they need joint efforts to it. And then we have a few major research areas under this project. first of all, we focus very much on cross-border environmental management systems, which provide us a perspective to look at all the issue concerns. And we have 4 specific policy areas we would look into. The first one is cross-border water pollution control, mainly Dongzhuang water, because Dongzhuang water is particularly a concern in Hong Kong because we rely on the supply of water from this river. So this is why we are concerned about it. And the second one is cross-border air pollution control. We focus on the energy sector and the vehicular emissions. Air pollution it has been getting increasingly serious in Hong Kong, mostly due to the industrial pollutions in the Pearl River Delta regions. And also we study transboundary environmental impact assessment for construction and development projects, because any large-scale project will have a cross-border environmental impact. And then we later incorporate another major area is the e-waste, to study e-waste, hopefully from a circular economies to make sure. And then the research objective, going very quickly to that, we mostly take a regional perspective on environmental control of pollution. This project aims to examine the structure of cross-border environmental problem, assess the performance of current regulatory regimes, identify the institutional constraints for effective collaboration, chart out the future prospect of cross-border environmental governance, and hopefully this is our last major objective, formulate a policy regime containing possible policy options for cross-border environmental protection, because we consider that Guangdong and Hong Kong has been quite underdeveloped in these cross-border environmental policy areas. So it's the research team, as I mentioned, that is a intervarsity research team. Currently, I coordinate this project, and we have Dr. Y.S. Lee from the University of Hong Kong working closely with me, and we have Professor K.C. Ho from the Open University of Hong Kong, focused mostly on water, and Dr. Alex English from the Chinese University of Hong Kong, also on water research management. Dr. Zhong San from the Baptist University, and a specialist in solid waste management, and Dr. Arnold Howard from the Harvard University. His interest is in the vehicular emission control in the Pearl River Delta regions. And we have research partners across the border from the South China Research Institute of Environmental Science. The leader is Ms. Ma. Actually, this research setup is under SIPR. It's now an environmental ministry, isn't it? So it's part of their research institutes. So major activity we have so far progressed. This is the progress of our research. So we basically are close to completion of cross-border environmental protection, about the issue, all the overview issues. NGO participation in cross-border environmental protection, we are now working on some manuscript. Dongzhuang water management, this is by far, we have done a lot of work, so this is why we are going to be sent here. We have 2 manuscripts under preparations. And emission trading for the control of air pollution from power plants in the Pearl River Delta region, we're also close to completion. Transboundary EIAs, also we work close to it. And vehicular emission control in the Pearl River Delta regions under investigation. But this project is quite tricky because increasing, we don't know why, but it becomes more sensitive issue in the Pearl River Delta regions. So, and the control of e-waste also under investigation. So these are the few major events we have done in the last 12 months. So we just like to highlight the third one is we organized a Dongzhuang water management workshop, inviting a lot of government officials from Guangdong province. Also we have officials from Hong Kong to do this workshop to wrap up our study. And actually we have some major written papers. I won't go through it, but any paper you are interested, we can send you a copy of it. And we have this is currently what we are doing. So we aim at a book manuscript on cross-border environmental protection between Hong Kong and Guangdong province. We hope to complete it toward the end of this year. And this will be part of the report we will send to the Guangdong government Hong Kong government as well as the environmental ministry in Beijing. So this is part of it. So.
And I wanted to note that all of the PowerPoints are on our website. So afterwards, if you need to gather information, look up their articles.
So I think that's the overview of our research project. And now I'd like to turn into specifically about the perspective. We look at the regional environmental protection. We focus on the Hong Kong Guangdong experience. This research I conduct jointly with Dr. Y.S. Lee. So I just bring a brief introduction of it. I go through very quickly about some of the perspective we look at regional and transboundary environmental governance. So the basic principle here is that environmental pollution respects no national boundaries. So in order to tackle all types of environmental pollutions that needs efforts going beyond a country's boundaries. So, and regional collaboration in environmental protection has been a notable trend in the last couple of years, and a road to regional and global sustainable development. And this is a simple conception of regional collaboration. Is the continuum. You can two countries may have no collaboration, zero collaboration, but they can go as far as a full-scale and integrated collaborations, like the role that EU has been progressing. So there are different type of models about cross-border environmental governance, including the scope. Scope can be zero to very comprehensive. Structure can be informal to very formal, highly institutionalized. The mode can be ad hoc to permanent, and level can be consultation level to policy or even a legal level. And the selection of the model of environmental collaboration depends very much on the nature of the pollution problem, whether it's in a very urgent problem or the scale is very serious. Usually, more serious scale and more urgent collaboration will come up. And the background of the country concerned, social, economic, and political, whether the two country or more than a few countries around have the same level of economic, political, and social developments, and the same political system as well. So I know that increasingly there are more collaboration between Eastern Europe and the former Eastern European country, but some of them, the country political system may be some obstacles. And the policy orientation, whether the country have same policy and orientations among remedial, proactive, or sustainable. And factor affecting the effort of collaboration, I think probably about not every country take environmental issue as a priority, and their resource situation, the most important of all, the perception of sovereignty. So I think this is probably the most important dimension. So this is some of the some conceptualization too. You can have minimal, maximum based on different parameters. So the base of collaboration can be mutually understand to a more formal legal treaty, and scope can be single issue to very comprehensive, cover every aspect of the pollution, and structure can be informal agreements, verbal agreements, or mutual understanding to highly institutionalized structures. The mode, as I mentioned, can be ad hoc, permanent, and the level can be loose and broad principles to a policy, including implementation too. So, so we have actually the cross-border collaborations have been conducted mostly under with the understanding the limits of unilateral effort in the effective control of environmental pollutions. So we have some good cases of cross-border collaborations. U.S.-Canada, U.S.-Mexico, and EU. They have also started a cross-boundary collaboration decades ago. So I don't want to particularly go through all these kind of things, but we try to structure tables about these three more, quite advanced, quite progressive experience in cross-border collaboration under these different parameter: policy ideology, policy structure, policy contents, governance structure, policy instruments, implementation, and performance. So you can see that. But I like to to draw your attention that implementation is more action-oriented. But you can see that most joint collaboration has limited in policy exchange without implementation. And even EU, by far the most integrated one, most progressive one, they still lack a cross-border implementation mechanism. So more much to the sovereignty issues. So the performance, you can see that performance you can see more integration at the policy levels, but short of actions, sort of joint action, I mean. So this is why the problems, why there's been lack of a lot of good performance in this joint effort. So, but these are some of the prevailing trend in transboundary collaborations. Mostly you can see that the scope of collaboration has been broadened to considerable extent from single issue to multiple issues. And the growing emphasis on the preventive approach instead of remedial control. They try to use EIA, transboundary EIA, to hopefully to prevent pollution. And the greater use of a legal mechanism to make it more enforceable and more powerful. And the wider adoption of economic instruments, not restrict to command and control regulations. They use economic instruments like emission trading kind of mechanism, polluter play principle, all this kind of thing. And the more increasing institutionalization of collaborative efforts. So instead of relying informal agreements, informal mechanism, they try to make a formal setup to do it. So, but the performance, as I mentioned, that is more better at performance at the policy integration level, share policy consensus, share policy options. So exchange of information, promoting policy coordination, but limited performance at the implementation level. Implementation effect has been on the whole quite limited, with state sovereignty as a major source of institutional constraint for actualizing joint regulation. I think that's understandable because still the unit of analysis today is still the nation states, seldom going beyond that. I also like to briefly talk about the situation in the Pearl River Delta pollution between Hong Kong and Guangdong. Probably everyone may know that why pollution is so serious in the Pearl River Delta region, because Pearl River Delta region is the home for the world, is a home for all the polluting factory. So I think you can see that. So Hong Kong Guangdong province, they call for cooperation because of rapid deterioration of the quality of environment in the Pearl River Delta regions. Pearl River Delta region, as mentioned, is the world factory, so for manufacturing goods and products. So all kind of pollution you can find, not just water, but water and air pollutions are particularly pronounced and almost out of control. So initially, the government across the border has some initial efforts too, including joint EIA, water pollution, air pollution monitoring networks. So they have some joint actions, even day back to the old day in 1990s when Hong Kong was still a British dependence territory. But the progress has been slow, although they started the collaboration in 1990s. But it remains basically the same. The collaboration remains largely ad hoc in nature, stopping mostly at policy consultation level, not actually exchange information, just consultation. So this, you can see the contrast of the political setup and administrative setup between these two jurisdictions. So Hong Kong and Guangdong. Guangdong is part of the communist regime. So, and the bureaucracy in Hong Kong is more formalized than the Guangdong province. Guangdong province is more taking care of the political interests. The law, Hong Kong has a common law system, whereas Guangdong has a socialist legal systems. So policy making is basically, Hong Kong is more consultations, and whereas Guangdong has more top-down effect. And environmental pollutions, so both sides have environmental pollution issue, but Guangdong, as I mentioned, are even worse. Environmental awareness, in the last couple of years, I mean, you can see Hong Kong people has been quite aware of the environmental well-being, probably thanks to the pollution getting worse. So, but actually, Guangdong also benefit from the economic progress. You can see that the local citizens has begun to demand higher living quality, even at the expense of economic development. So the economic structure, you can see that they have two economic structures. Hong Kong is a classic example of market economies, whereas still Guangdong economy is still, you can see the shadow of the planned economies there. So basically, this diagram tries to capture the current collaboration between these two jurisdictions. Basically, it's one country, two systems. That means they can integrate better, or if they take Hong Kong and China and Guangdong province as one country, but they can be more separation if we look at it from they are two different systems. So depend on which perspective you use to conduct these transboundary collaborations. And the scope tend to be comprehensive. They try to address all the environmental issue. And structure still they have a formal consultative structure, but remain at consultation. It's not policy or implementation mechanism. It's rather ad hoc. They don't fix a working schedule for doing it. A level, policy consultation level, and performance. Actually, more discussion, more exchange than actions indeed. So these are the policy reality. I try to capture the policy reality about their intention to collaborate. So policymakers in both sides of the border increasingly are sustainable development concerned in the region. They know that the region should pursue sustainable development, but the problem is how to do it together. And awareness of rapid degradation of regional environmental quality and accelerated depletion of regional natural resources. I think we don't need to explain too far here. And then lack of well-coordinated efforts for effective environmental protection on a regional basis. We still don't have a cross-border formal structure for policy and for actions. And greater local political pressure for managing cross-border environmental problem, particularly in the case of Hong Kong, because you can say that we are a victim of the cross-border pollution, but of course Guangdong province have different viewpoint. So Hong Kong also established a unit at the deputy director level to take charge of transboundary environmental protection. In the past, there was no specific unit devoted to this issue, but in 3 or 4 years ago, they established a cross-border environmental office to do it. And while Hong Kong is more enthusiastic to do it and push harder to do it, but Guangdong lack of incentive for managing pollution in a cross-border perspective, because the environmental issue in Hong Kong have no impact on Guangdong province. So they have they don't have any demand on the environmental pollution in Hong Kong. So this is why it's more one way. So, and they consider that Guangdong province consider that they can do it themselves without the involvement of Hong Kong. Also, you can see the nature of communist regime, the lack of transparency. If you cooperate, that means you need to disclose more information. You need to Hong Kong to participate to the environmental policy of Guangdong province, which they don't like. So this is why. But quite interesting, SIPR, the South Environmental Ministry, they pay greater attention to cross-border pollution and environmental management between Hong Kong and Guangdong. We invite some SIPR office officials to join our workshop, and until then they knew very little about cross-border environmental protection issue, and they said that they get more information on that. They think that it is an increasingly important issue. So I think that's different. They are more enthusiastic to do it. So actually here we focus on 3 issues on this transboundary environmental governance. So, and then what are the primary functions and institutional constraints faced by the government agencies charged with the responsibility of cross-border environmental protection, and what feasible policy approach could be identified to help introduce an innovative cross-jurisdictional institutional mechanisms for the purposes of strengthening cross-border environmental protection activities. So we are looking for a mechanism. And to what extent and how could concerned stakeholders such as Hong Kong, SAR government, and local green NGOs be involved in the nationwide environmental protection decision-making process? We hope that in the process, Hong Kong can participate more in this cross-border protection issues. So obviously there are opportunity, constraint, and prospect. We are concerned about it. But there may be a turnaround of tables because recently we got a new provincial chief in Guangdong province. It seems to be more enthusiastic on cross-border collaboration. That may open the way to do it. But in the past, when we exchange opinion with leading officials in Guangdong Environmental Protection Bureau, they told us they were not very enthusiastic about this cross-border collaboration, actually. So, and this is more an ideal time models we look forward to, but I mean, it's still a long way to go. We hope that the basis of governance should be based on legal treaties between the two jurisdictions and policy ideology. Hopefully, the two jurisdictions can reach a common policy ideology of sustainable development of whatever kind. And policy structure, I think one cross-border environmental policy is very desirable. It's highly desirable with a set of cross-border legal regulation. Actually, there's a few scholars now focusing on the study how feasible it is to have a single set of cross-border environmental law. So this is one to it. And the governance structure, we hope that we have a permanent governance structure for handling both policy and regulatory issues. And policy instruments, of course, today we should not just limit it to command and control. We should also consider market instruments. And process, we like to see that there are more public participations. All stakeholders can take a part in it. And the implementation, that's the most important part. If it is to be effective, we need a cross-border implementation structure with enforcement power, so that they can implement the policy and also enforce the legal regulation. So that's all I'd like to talk about the transboundary environmental governance. This provides us with a perspective to look at individual sectors about cross-border environmental issues. One particular area we are looking for, we have been studying, is the Dongjiang water management. So Dr. Lee will talk about it. Thank you.
Testing. Okay, good morning. Yeah, can everyone hear me in the back? Yeah, okay. First of all, I'd like to thank Jennifer for hosting our talk this morning. She just reminded me that we first met, 16 years ago? It's a long time ago, yeah. And the reason why we met, she forgot to mention the name, James Nickham. For those who have been working on China water issues, Jim has been working on that since his PhD years. And we've been collaborating. When we work together at the East-West Center, yeah. And I think I still sort of work with him at a distance. He's now working in Japan, teaching in Japan, where I'm teaching in Hong Kong, but we still keep in touch. Yeah. So a little bit about the history of how we are connected. Yeah. I'm going to talk about water resources conservation problems in the Dongjiang River Basin. And the reason why we are talking about the Dongjiang is that Hong Kong depends on Dongjiang for about 80% of its water supply since the 1960s. So basically for the last 4 decades, Hong Kong has been relying primarily on the Dongjiang for its municipal water supply. And so Hong Kong is very concerned about water quantity, is also very concerned about water quality. Yeah. In quality from the Dongjiang, and has been one of the contentious issues debated between Hong Kong and Guangdong about like 5-6 years ago regarding the quality of raw water shipped in Hong Kong from Shenzhen reservoir. Yeah. Now, why are we going to talk about? You can see from the PowerPoint that we're going to talk about bureaucratic conflicts, water resources conservation. Yeah. Now, water resources conservation is a major problem in the Dongjiang River Basin, primarily because what? Primarily because there are conflicting interests between upstream and downstream jurisdictions regarding what the distribution of the benefits and the burden of implementing or conducting water resources conservation projects. And in order to understand the role of Hong Kong in terms of like conserving water resources in the Dongjiang River Basin, then we have to have a better understanding of how those conflicts within the river basin are being sort of like addressed at the moment. And then within the larger perspective, Hong Kong-Guangdong cooperation, what should be the role of Hong Kong in terms of like playing a part in conserving water resources in the Dongjiang River Basin? Well, at the moment, Hong Kong is paying a lump sum to Guangdong province. Basically, it's a Guangdong province control firm, okay, paying like 2.49 billion Hong Kong dollars every year in exchange for about 800 million cubic meters of water every year. Okay, so we're paying a price of like 3 Hong Kong dollars per cubic meter, okay, for that water. Yeah. We'll come back to this later, whether it is sufficient amount of money from the perspective of Guangdong province. Did they want more? Of course they want more. Okay, I'll tell you the reason why they want more. Yeah. But in order to understand why they want more, we need to sort of like understand within the river basin, Dongjiang, what are some of the major conflicts that are impeding the effort of water resources conservation. Yeah. Now, we are using a model developed by political scientists studying Chinese politics to understand these like bureaucratic relations in managing water resources. It's been referred to as the fragmented authoritarianism model. Let me sort of spend just a couple of minutes on this. Primarily, it refers to the idea that like within a province, like Guangdong province, the provincial government should have sufficient authority and power to force the decision onto lower government units like the cities. Like CDA could be Guangzhou, and then CDB could be an upstream jurisdiction like Keyuan within the Dongjiang River Basin. Now, these two cities may have a conflict, or may have conflicts regarding water quality, for example. I mean, a downstream city may complain to Guangdong province saying that, hey, the water they're receiving is being polluted by upstream city. Please do something. I mean, ask them to stop polluting the water. Yeah. And when they have a conflict, usually what they do is that they will go to what? The two cities will bargain with their higher up unit. In this case, CDA would bargain with the provincial authority. At the same time, CDB will also bargain. Okay, basically they would negotiate with their higher authority, saying, hey, I mean, we have problems. For example, CDA is being complained by CDB that, well, it's polluting the water because it's situated in the upstream section of a river basin. Then CDA will basically talk to the provincial authority, say, hey, we have limitations. Okay, we have limited resources in dealing with wastewater treatment facilities. That's the limit to what we can do in terms of cleaning up the water. Okay, so they will bargain with the provincial authority and say, hey, you want us to clean up our wastewater? Give us some money. Okay, help us invest in wastewater treatment facility, and we'll clean up the water so that CDB will stop complaining. Okay, now at the same time, CDB will basically will complain to the provincial authorities saying, hey, we're receiving polluted water. Please do something. Okay, clean up the water so that we have clean water. Okay, now as far as the provincial authorities is concerned, then they want they would like to see consensus reached, okay, by all the parties concerned before they will implement a particular decision, okay? Because they don't want to force, because there's always a chance that lower level government units can find a way to resist or not to implement any decisions basically made by a higher authority. Yeah. So this consensus approach, okay, trying to reach a consensus to resolve any kind of conflicts, okay, is the way that Chinese politics work. Okay? And we're trying to sort of like use this model to understand how these conflicts between upstream and downstream jurisdictions within the Dongjiang River Basin are being addressed at the moment, or not being addressed. Okay, the limits to that model. Yeah. Now, the second point, reform produced or introduced in the last since the early 1980s, basically have reinforced this practice of bargaining. Okay, because what basically reform measures introduced in the last 2-3 decades have actually taken away the power of the central government, okay, to enforce, or basically to force the decisions onto lower government units. And then local units referring to, in this case, at the national level, provinces, or within a province, basically cities. They have no resources. Basically, the autonomy of resources has increased. I mean, they have more resources at their own disposal, okay? Meaning what? Meaning that they are in a better bargaining position vis-a-vis their higher authority, okay? And that complicates the bargaining relations between a lower level government unit and a higher government level unit. In this case, between the city and the provincial authority. Okay, there's some of the background information for one to understand the bureaucratic conflicts in the Dongjiang River Basin. Now, water decisions, or decisions relating to water resources management, are very useful in terms of understanding these bargaining relationships, because water cuts through administrative boundaries. Okay. At the same time, water is becoming, in the case of China, increasingly a scarce commodity. And there are always multiple uses, and one use always precludes another in most cases. For example, water could be used for like power generation, but increasingly, for example, in the peripheral Delta region, increasing demand from industrial production and from municipal demand is sort of like creating a conflict between two types of uses. One is either you sort of like reserve water in a reservoir for power generation purposes, or you release the water to satisfy increasing demand for industrial and municipal demand. And that's actually increasingly a source of conflict within the Dongjiang River Basin because of this increasing demand for water from the industrial and municipal sector. Yeah. Now, so far I haven't really talked about what do we mean by bureaucratic conflicts. In this case, we're talking about two types of conflicts. One is between upstream and downstream jurisdictions. So in this case, bureaucratic, this word will refer to the territorial jurisdictions, like cities. Cities located in the downstream jurisdiction vis-a-vis cities located in the upstream jurisdictions. And they may have conflicts regarding water quality and water quantity. A second dimension of these bureaucratic conflicts pertain to conflicts arising between different types of uses. Examples that's given regarding like power generation and water for municipal demand, satisfy municipal demand. Yeah. So that could be a second source of conflict between bureaucracies. In this case, the ministries, like Ministry of Water Resources and Ministry of like Power Generation. Ministry of what? Electric. Forgot that was overseeing power generation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. This is the Dongjiang. The originate from Jiangxi province and going through several cities in Guangdong province and then discharge into the peripheral estuary. Okay. The drainage area 35,000 square kilometers. The main stem is 562 kilometers. The annual average discharge 32.66 billion cubic meters. And population served by this river in terms of what? In terms of the number of people, okay, depending on the river for their water supply, daily water consumption, 45 million people, okay, including what? Including population in Guangzhou including population of Hong Kong, Shenzhen, and of course all the other jurisdictions within the river basin. Okay, it's 45 million people. So increasingly, particularly since the turn of the century, water supply security, 供水安全, has become the number one concern of water planners in the Guangdong province. Okay, because like 30 years ago, in the 1970s, in the 1960s even, the number one concern at that time was flood prevention. And the number two concern is, well, how do you use water to generate power? So flood prevention and power generation were the two priority concerns in the 60s, in the 70s. I would even say in the 80s. And then since the mid-1990s, with increasing industrial growth and also population growth in the periphery of the region, basically the downstream section of this river basin, then water supply has become the number one concern. I mean, how do you satisfy the demand for water from the from the municipalities served by this river has become the number one concern in terms of how water resources should be managed. Okay. For hydrologists studying a river basin, okay, then when you looked at the Pearl Delta, looking at the Dongjiang River Basin, one would demarcate, okay, the river basin into the upstream, midstream, and downstream sections, okay, normally, okay, meaning what a hydrologist trying to study the hydrological relations or the dynamics, then would basically divide the Dongjiang River Basin into these three zones. In reality, okay, as far as Jiangxi province is concerned, okay, then Jiangxi province would define the upstream zone as what? As the area within its own administrative boundary, okay, which accounts for about 10% of the drainage area of the entire Dongjiang River Basin and account for 6% of the annual discharge. Anything beyond the boundary, as far as Jiangxi province is concerned, is downstream. Okay, so basically, what the entire the other 90% of the river basin, okay, from the perspective of Jiangxi province, is considered downstream. Okay, basically, what 90% drainage area and 94% of the annual drainage, the annual discharge in Guangdong province. From the perspective of Guangdong province, they have a different way of defining upstream, midstream, and downstream zone from Jiangxi province. Okay, basically, what for Guangdong province, when they plan, okay, when they conduct their planning, like water planning exercises, they would define the upstream zone as the city of Haoyuan, and they basically do not pay attention beyond what? Beyond the boundary dividing Guangdong and Jiangxi. Okay, because as far as Guangdong province is concerned, the Guangdong Provincial Authority is concerned with that decision, okay, would not have any kind of impact beyond the boundary anyway. So when they conduct their own exercises, in coming up with like a water conservation plan, then this is how they would define upstream, midstream, and downstream zones, okay, which is somewhat different. And there's implications for how water resources are being managed within this river basin. And you also have implications regarding what? Regarding why there are conflicts arising between the upstream and the downstream jurisdictions. Depends on how, well, depends on your perspective. What is upstream and what is downstream. Yeah. One major reason that there are increasing conflicts arising in the river basin is this what? Increasing disparity within the basin. These numbers refer to per capita GDP figures, okay, which means that in Xunwu is a county located in the Headstream region of the Dongjiang River Basin. It's located in Jiangxi province. GDP per capita, 2006, is $215 US. Okay. Hong Kong, located at the other end. Hong Kong relies on the Dongjiang for about 80% of its water supply. In 2006, the GDP per capita figure was $27,680 US dollars. I mean, this tells you sort of like the wide disparity in terms of like economic development within the same river basin. Okay. Within Guangdong province, Keyuan, which is usually referred to by downstream jurisdictions within the Dongjiang River Basin as an upstream zone, I mean, falling upstream zone, the per capita GDP figure, 1,337 US dollars, again, 2006 figures. When you look at this and you move along the river from Keyuan downstream to Huizhou to Dongguan, you notice that the GDP figure, the per capita GDP figure, go up as you move from upstream to downstream zone. Okay. So as far as the upstream jurisdictions are concerned, in this case, I would define both Xunwu County and Heyuan City falling into the upstream zone of Dongjiang River Basin. As far as Xunwu and Heyuan are concerned, they're saying that the reason why they have very low GDP figure or per capita GDP figure is that they are making a sacrifice so that downstream jurisdictions could prosper. The reason why Shenzhen could have a 9,776 US dollar per capita GDP figure and Guangzhou $8,882. As far as they're concerned, they make a contribution to their GDP growth. By what? By investing in water resources conservation projects, by giving up opportunities to engage in what? Engage in economic development projects to keep the water clean. Okay? So as far as the upstream jurisdiction is concerned, they want some kind of what? Incentive. Well, that's a good way to put it. When they want compensation, okay, or incentive. Well, that's a better word, yeah. But they want what? They want compensation, okay, and they use the term ecological compensation. Basically, their position is that we have invested, okay, in water resources conservation projects over the years, maybe decades, okay. So that what? So that downstream jurisdictions can enjoy clean water. And that's why they have become rich. Now it's our turn to become rich. We want to close the gap. And the way to close the gap is that you give us money. Okay, so one way to do it. Yeah. But there's another way, non-monetary compensation. I'll go into that later, yeah. These are pictures taken when Carlos and I went to Xunwu County. These are pictures of Xunwu County. This is not Dongjiang. This is one of the tributaries going into Dongjiang. Yeah. But this is the Xunwu County located in Jiangxi province in the headwater region. Okay. You can see the water quality is the environmental department. There's an officer taking us to look at this river. This is one of the tributary. Leading into the Dongjiang, yeah. And the water quality was, you can see it's kind of murky, yeah. It's not really good, yeah. It's not clear. And according to him, well, that's because there was a heavy rainstorm the day before, yeah. And that, but you can actually see that soil erosion is a major problem, okay. So, and in the Xunwu County, the major economic one major economic activity was the orchards, orange orchards. Yeah. And, but it has leading the way that is being managed has led to a serious soil erosion problem in that region. Okay. Now, in terms of what? In terms of the position of the upstream jurisdictions are concerned, yeah, you can see that I mark two circles here, referring to the idea that from the perspective of Jiangxi province, the upstream section, okay, where Xunwu County is located, is considered upstream. As far as Guangdong province is concerned, well, Korean City is also considered upstream zone, okay, falling into the upstream jurisdiction, okay. In any case, okay, both Xunwu County and Korean City are making the point that in order to help conserve water resources, they have done first, they have shut down polluting industries. Okay. So in the case of Xunwu, basically what they have done is that they have closed a lot of the mines, okay, rare earth or rare metal mines, okay, which was contributing to water pollution in the upstream section, okay. So there's such shut down a lot of polluting industries. At the same time, these two jurisdictions have refused permission for industry to set up operations if they consider that particular industry is highly polluting, okay, that will pollute the water resources. Then they refuse permission for those industries to set up operation within their jurisdictions over like in the last 10 years or so, okay. And basically, as far as Xunwu County and Korean City are concerned, these two actions represent what? Represent economic opportunities foregone, okay. Basically what it means, no local revenue, okay, or reduced local revenue for the local jurisdictions. Water resources conservation, okay, also extend to two other activities. One is the construction of 3 major reservoirs within Guangdong province. Okay, these three major reservoirs. One is Sinfengzhang Reservoir, completed in 1961, Fengshui Reservoir, completed in 1973, and the Baibenju Reservoir became operational in 1984. Now, these 3 reservoirs, as I said earlier, they were built primarily to fulfill 2 purposes. One is flood prevention, the other is power generation. So even nowadays, Fengshui Reservoir and Sinfengzhang Reservoir are still the 2 reservoirs that produce I think the largest amount of like electrical power supply for the province. Yeah. When the reservoirs were built, like for example, the construction work on the Sinfengzhang Reservoir started in the year 1958. Okay, peasants were relocated. Okay, we are talking about 500,000 farmers were relocated. Okay, so what they refer to as what reservoir migrants. Okay, when we were conducting interviews in the Korean city region, we found out that many of these migrants still have problems with their housing condition. Meaning what? It's like, and when we were conducting interview, we found that hard to believe. I mean, you talk about a project that started in 1958, and yet last year when we were conducting interview, 2007, you talk about like several decades, and people's housing condition, meaning are still very poor, meaning that they have not yet been relocated in good housing. Okay. Not to mention what? Not to mention jobs, not to mention like medical health and education for the children. Yeah. So that's a major problem in terms of what? In terms of this lack of, when I say, I mean lagging behind. Okay. I mean, but this is what a long time lag. I mean, talking about several decades in terms of compensating those peasants who were displaced because of the reservoir projects. Okay. Second, conservation forest. Okay, in order to help conserve water resources, a lot of the forest areas, particularly the forest land right next or surrounding the reservoirs, they were designated as conservation forest. Now, what does it mean? It means that once those forest areas are designated as conservation forest, then the farmers are not allowed to cut down the trees. Meaning what? Meaning they have been cutting down the trees for commercial purposes. Okay, but once those forests, okay, they have been working on for decades, are designated as either the state forest, or the state conservation forest, or provincial conservation forest, then the forest farmers are not allowed to derive any kind of economic gain. Okay, basically what? No logging is allowed. Okay, so as far as the forest farmers are concerned, once their forests are designated as conservation forest, then they would lose their source of livelihood. Okay? And right now, they are not receiving sufficient compensation for that loss. Okay? And they want, again, compensation. Okay? And they are saying that we have made a contribution to help conserve water resources, but we are not being fully compensated for the losses. These are pictures of the Xinfengjiang Reservoir, one of the largest, basically the largest reservoir in the Dongjiang River Basin. Yeah. The water quality is very good. I mean, it's like class 1, class 2, always above class 2. Actually, it's class 1. You can actually drink. Yeah, from that. It's so clear.
You drink first.
We all drink.
Yeah, we.
No, you're fine.
Okay. So as far as the upstream zones, the jurisdictions located in upstream zone are concerned, basically the position is very simple. Let me summarize what I already said, and that is this intra-basin disparity, okay, illustrated by this large gap between the upstream and downstream jurisdictions regarding their per capita GDP. Basically, they say, hey, the reason why we pull is that the burden of keeping water resources so like in a sustainable or clean is the result of unfair distribution of this burden between the upstream jurisdictions and the downstream jurisdictions. And they're saying that we are being asked to carry an unfair proportion of this burden, okay, by foregoing economic development opportunities. Basically arriving at the conclusion, as far as the upstream jurisdictions are concerned, that underdevelopment is the result of restrictions unfairly placed upon them, okay, imposed on the upstream jurisdiction, not to engage in any kind of like industrial or economic development, in the name of what? In the name of conserving water resources in the Dongjiang River Basin. So as far as they are concerned, as far as Xinwu County and Korean City are concerned, their priorities are very simple. One, they want to receive ecological compensation. Okay. Well, the questions are, how much? Who should pay that? Who should pay the ecological compensation to Xinwu County, to Korean City? Okay. For how long? Right? For what purposes? I mean, there's a lot of questions. Okay. Once that demand is voiced by Xinwu County and Korean City. Second, in addition to monetary compensation, okay, they also want to sort of like ask the higher authorities, okay, to come up with some kind of supportive policies. Okay. When I say higher authorities, as far as Xinwu County is concerned, basically with the support of Jiangxi Province, Xinwu County would go to the national legislation, the national legislature, okay, and ask the People's Congress to come up with a legislation on interprovincial ecological compensation scheme. Within Guangdong Province, Korean City would basically instead of going to the national legislature, they go to the provincial legislature, the People's Congress, Guangdong Province, because this is intra-provincial, okay, transfer. Basically, they're asking, could Guangdong Province somehow come up with money to pay for some kind of ecological compensation? At the same time, Korean City will also say, how about downstream jurisdictions like Huizhou, Dongguan, Shenzhen, even Hong Kong? Because Hong Kong is rich. Hong Kong is using 80% of its water from Dongjiang. How about Hong Kong, Shenzhen, Dongguan? Okay, all these rich cousins. Give some money. Okay, so that we can also improve our economy. Yeah. So these are within using the framework that I introduced earlier. I mean the bureaucratic, the bargaining framework. These are the kind of actions taken by the upstream jurisdictions in order to convince higher authorities that they deserve, okay, to receive ecological compensation. Okay, so they engage in a lot of publicity activities. Okay, they produce books. Okay, and they invite they invite the journalists. Okay, For example, in the case of like Xunwu County, in the case of Heyuan City, they invite journalists from Guangdong province. Sometimes they also invite journalists from Hong Kong. Okay, come take a look. Okay, this is what the headwater region. Okay, the source of Dongjiang River, Dongjiang water, and trying to sort of like basically enforce, okay, or consolidate their position as the headstream, okay, region of the Dongjiang River Basin, okay. And I've already said something about proposing legislation in Xunwu County and Heyuan City are both trying to have legislation passed, okay, at the national level as well as the provincial level, okay, legitimizing their claim for ecological compensation, okay. As far as the jurisdictions in the downstream zone are concerned, okay, when they listen, okay, when they hear this call for compensation, okay, from the upstream jurisdiction, the immediate reaction is like, hey, wait a minute, okay, we are not in a position, okay, to pay compensation to you, upstream jurisdiction. That should be what? That should be the job of the higher authority. So in the case of Guangdong province is making a point that every year, okay, we pay amount of what? Basically what? We within our provincial, okay, how do you say that? The tax revenue. Hmm? Yeah, the revenue, okay. Revenue under control, okay. We have already submitted a part of the revenue to the central authority, so the central government, okay. So as far as we are concerned, we have already done our job, okay. So it should be what? Every year we are already, so like in terms of like fiscal transfer, okay, we have already sort of like submitted our fair share of contribution to the central government coffer, okay. So it should be the job of the central authority to disperse whatever they have, okay, to satisfy the demand from the upstream jurisdiction, okay. And then within what? Within, basically, again, within the province itself, within Guangdong province, okay, downstream jurisdictions like Dongguan, Huizhou, they are basically making the same point. Basically, they are saying that there's no reason, okay, there's no basis for our upstream jurisdiction, in this case, Heyuan City, to demand we pay compensation to them, okay, because again, we have what? We have already done our duty, okay, we have already paid our tax, some of the tax have been transferred to the provincial authority, okay, so it should be the Guangdong provincial authority who should be in a position, okay, to supply basically all this money, okay, compensation to the upstream jurisdiction, in this case, Heyuan City, okay. So basically, as far as the downstream jurisdictions are concerned, okay, their priorities, okay, their priorities is what they want to have a steady supply of clean and sufficient amount of water, okay, to satisfy the increasing demand for water, okay, because basically as far as Dongguan, Huizhou, and Shenzhen are concerned, their economies are expanding, okay. Population increasing, industrial activities increasing, and they need more water, and they want clean water. Okay. Now, their bargaining action, as far as the downstream jurisdictions are concerned, mean they will not go to the upstream jurisdiction and say, hey, give us more water. It's not what they do. They go to what? They go to the higher up, immediate higher authority. In this case, within Guangdong province, they go to what? The Guangdong provincial authority and say, we need more water. Give us some more water. Okay, and that's what the Guangdong Provincial Authority has done. Okay, late last year in 2007, the Guangdong Provincial Authority came up with a water allocation plan within the Dongjiang River Basin. Okay, now again, the reason why they developed this water allocation plan, okay, was that there was increasing demand for water. Okay, so much so that this region has been known, the Pearl Feather region or the Dongjiang River Basin has been known for a region with relatively speaking, okay, so like a good It's well endowed with water resources compared to other parts of China. Okay. But because of this rapid industrial growth, rapid demographic population growth in the peripheral region, water quantity is becoming a problem. I mean, that basically that's not going to be not going to be sufficient water, okay, to satisfy the increasing demand coming from the downstream jurisdictions, okay. So in the name of what? In the name of water supply security, 供水安全, the Water Resources Department of the Guangdong Provincial Authority came up with this water allocation plan last year. Okay. Now all these numbers are being reported in the newspaper. The exact numbers are not formally announced by the Guangdong Provincial Authority. Okay. Basically, they are trying to, through this water allocation plan, to limit the maximum amount of water to be withdrawn or allowed to be withdrawn from the Dongjiang 10.66 billion cubic meter. Okay. Compared to the total annual discharge, this represents 33%, meaning what? You cannot, okay, or as far as the Guangdong Provincial Authority is concerned, they do not want to see more than 33% of the water being withdrawn from the Dongjiang to satisfy municipal, industrial, agricultural uses. Okay, so they place a limit, okay, the upper limit on how much water could be taken out of the river. And then these numbers refer to the amount of water being allocated to each city. Okay, so in this case, 0.548, meaning what? Basically 548 million cubic meter, will be allocated to Guangzhou. Guangzhou does not rely on the Dongjiang solely for its water supply. It relies on several other rivers. Dongguan, about 2 billion cubic meter. Hong Kong, 1.1 billion cubic meter. I mean, these are what? These are the figures being proposed, okay, under this water allocation plan. Okay. The implication of this is, for the first time, okay, with the Dongjiang River Basin, some kind of water rights are being defined. Meaning what? Once this water plan is approved, okay, then each city, okay, for example, Shenzhen, okay, would then be entitled to receive 1.593 billion cubic meter per year from the Dongjiang, okay, and they sort of like define how much water, okay, the Shenzhen is entitled to sort of like take from the river, okay. Hong Kong would then be basically what? Be allocated 1.1 billion. Hong Kong is using about 800 million cubic meter of water per year. Well, so as far as Hong Kong is concerned, meaning what? If you give them 1.1 billion water, okay, that's the maximum amount that you can take from Dongjiang, and you're actually using 800 million. What it means, well, you have some 300 million cubic meter of water that you can put up for sale, right? In a way, if there's a market developed in the peripheral region, okay. So that is the one major implication of this water allocation plan being, it has not yet been approved. I mean, it's still being sort of circulated among all the concerned parties in the peripheral region. Yeah. I think you also let move fast. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Now, currently there are compensation activities going on within the Dongjiang River Basin, and this compensation scheme, or these compensation schemes, okay, they are designed to target three groups of individuals and jurisdiction. One is the reservoir migrants, meaning the peasants, the farmers, displaced by the reservoir projects since the 1960s, 1970s. The second, forest farmers, where their forests have been designated as either the provincial conservation forest or national conservation forest, and they have lost their source of income, okay, because they are not allowed to cut down the trees for commercial gains. The third target, okay, is the Korean city government. And again, within this, basically the Dongjiang River Basin compensation schemes, all these compensation schemes are being financed within the Guangdong province by the Guangdong Provincial Authority. Okay, so basically what? Basically, Xunwu County, okay, is not part of this compensation scheme. The migrants, okay, meaning what? Basically, since 1958, when the first reservoir, Xinfengzhang Reservoir, was built, okay, between 1958 and 2002, according to some estimates, the farmers, okay, the migrants were only given about 100 yuan per year per head. Okay. The national government did not come up with a standard until the year 2006. Okay. In the year 2006, the national government came out with a standard, okay, basically specifying like 600 yuan per year per person for 20 years. I mean, that is the standard compensation that should be given to migrants. In this case, the peasants, okay, displaced from reservoir projects. Okay. Funding sources, primarily since the year 2003, within Guangdong province, the power plants, like basically what Xinfengzhang Reservoir, Fengshui Reservoir, 0.5 cent per kilowatt. That kind of money will be taken into like a compensation fund to help pay for the migrants' compensation scheme. Okay. Money is also coming from the Guangdong Provincial Authority and also coming from the Central Government Authority. Yeah. Conservation forest. Okay. There are two types. One is what? National conservation forest, and the second one is the provincial conservation forest. Some of these forests overlap. Okay. So basically, I think about like 1.3 million mile of this forest are both designated as like state conservation forest and also national conservation forest. Okay. The point is this, okay, the funding sources. Since 1999, Guangdong Provincial Authority has allocated 2.5 yuan per mile. Okay. Meaning what? In 1999, the Guangdong Provincial Authority decided to give 2.5 yuan, okay, to help pay for what? To help pay for the cost of maintaining, okay, basically the maintenance of the conservation forest. Okay. So this money, 2.5 yuan, does not go directly to the farmers. Okay. Now, the latest figures, 2003, that figure was increased up to 8 yuan. And then since 2003, the central government also chipped in with like 5 yuan per mile. Okay. So in theory, 8 yuan plus 5 yuan, you have what? 13 yuan per mile. Okay. The farmer receives 6 yuan. The other 7 yuan go into administrative management costs, okay, managing the conservation forest. So the farmers were receiving 6 yuan. According to one calculation, the farmers were losing, okay, 37 yuan per mile in terms of what? In terms of foregone, okay, commercial gain from the logging activities. Okay, so basically, as the farmers are concerned, okay, they're losing 37 yuan per mile of forest. They're only given 6 yuan. Okay, so basically, not sufficient incentive for them to sort of like engage wholeheartedly in conserving the forest. Yeah, and so what happened? The consequence is what? Simple: illegal logging. People keep cutting down the trees. Yeah. The third target is the Korean city government. Okay, basically the city government of Korean within Guangdong province, they're receiving compensation. Okay, but as far as the Guangdong Provincial Authority is concerned, the Guangdong Provincial Authority does not like to call it compensation. Okay, because when it's called compensation, then it means what? It means that the Guangdong Provincial Authority will somehow recognize some kind of entitlement on the part of Korean, right? So basically, the Guangdong Provincial Authority is not compensation, okay? It's poverty alleviation. It's fiscal transfer, okay? You're poor, we help you sort of like improve your livelihood, okay? By what? By sort of like providing fiscal transfer to pay for your municipal expenditure, yeah. They also set up an industrial transfer park, okay? The Guangdong Provincial Authority help pay for the cost of setting up an industrial transfer park. What does it mean, industry transfer? Okay, basically the industry transfer park is created within Korean City. Okay, and then what? And then factories located in Samjun, factories located in Dongguan, would be given incentive to relocate from Samjun to Korean. Okay, so the latest figure that we have is that there are 23 projects located in the Industry Transfer Park. And after that 23 projects, 17 of those 23 came from Shenzhen and Dongguan. Okay? Meaning what? Somehow, with the help of the provincial authority, some of the factories were relocated from the downstream jurisdiction into Koyuan, which is the upstream jurisdiction. Okay, to help basically what? To help broaden its economic base. Okay, as a way to what? As a way to address the gap, intra-provincial, intra-river basin gap. Okay, and the Koyuan City is also designated as the mobile phone production center. Okay, somehow, as far as the provincial authority is concerned, the production of mobile phone is considered non-polluting industry. Okay.
I guess compared to, yeah.
What about compensation for Xinwu County? In Jiangxi province, so far, no compensation. I mean, they have been like Xinwu County and also Jiangxi province, they have organized several trips, okay, to Hong Kong to sort of plead with the people in Hong Kong, the government of Hong Kong, please, okay, give us some money in terms of compensation. Okay, given that Hong Kong is receiving 80% of its water from Dongjiang, okay, but so far, Guangdong province basically ignore, okay, any kind of claim from Jiangxi province for compensation, and Jiangxi province is working with the at the national level, trying to have like a national legislation passed to legitimize their claim for compensation, but so far it has not been successful. Okay, so far, Xinwu County is still like once in a while, they make some noise. Yeah. Now, the conclusion of our discussion here is that we're using that framework of bargaining. We're saying that as far as the upstream jurisdictions are concerned, they are engaging in some kind of new bargaining tactics. Okay, direct bottom up. Okay, basically what? Instead of the traditional way of bargaining, okay, in which they go through the formal channels, they now go through extra bureaucratic channels. They go to the media, okay. They invite TV stations, they invite journalists from outside the jurisdiction to come and see, we have made all these sacrifices, okay. We deserve compensation, okay. Our point in studying these problems, the problems of bureaucratic conflicts within the Dongjiang River Basin is this. Up until the moment, I would say even now, okay, it's not a major problem in terms of like water pollution from the upstream jurisdictions. Okay, but it could become a major problem if the grievances of upstream jurisdictions like Xinwu County and Huiyuan City are not fully addressed. Okay, meaning what? Meaning that they want compensation, they want to see further support from the higher authorities. They're not receiving that kind of compensation, they're receiving support from the higher authorities. Then basically what? They may engage in some actions, allowing what? Simple, allowing factories to be set up within their jurisdictions. Or they are not fully cooperative in terms of like implementing water resources conservation schemes, that will spell problems for the entire river basin. Okay. So our concern here is this. I mean, if all these grievances are not fully resolved, okay, then the long-term water conservation efforts within the river basin, okay, could be undermined. Yeah. Now, in terms of further research, there's a lot of topics, okay, a lot of problems that we need to address. I have already highlighted some of these questions. But something very fundamental, okay, and that is the water resource fee and the water fee, okay, how should they be determined in terms of the rate, who should collect these fees, and how should these fees be used for what purposes, okay. Now the difference between these two, okay, the water resource fee and the water fee is this. The water resource fee referred to in Chinese means the 水资源费, okay. At the moment, it's collected by the local jurisdiction where the water is withdrawn from the river. Okay? So for example, if the water is being withdrawn from Korean City, then Korean City is entitled to collect water resource fee from the users withdrawing the water. Okay? Meaning could be the farmers, could be the municipal water supply companies. Okay? The water resource fee on paper, okay, in theory, okay, is used to help pay for water conservation activities, water conservation projects. Okay, it's a state policy. Yeah. Right now, the rate is 2.5 cents per cubic meter. Okay, and it's considered just not sufficient. Okay, it's too low, 2.5 cents, 2.5 cents.
Fund or?
Oh, fund. I mean fund. Okay. Yeah. Water fee refer to what? Water fee refer to the amount of water paid for by the users. Okay, in collecting the water. Okay. In this case, for example, Hong Kong. Okay, is using water. Okay. So Hong Kong is what? Paying 3 Hong Kong dollars per cubic meter to Guangdong province, and that is the water fee. Okay. Again, in the case of Hong Kong, right, that's $3 that Hong Kong is paying to Guangdong, paying to Guangdong authority. There are lots of questions, okay, regarding the composition of the water fee. Okay, the $3, does it include only the engineering cost of supplying the water to Hong Kong, or would that also include the water resource fee? Okay. Now the Guangdong Provincial Authority is saying that amount of money, okay, that's 3 Hong Kong dollars, okay, is only covering the cost of supplying the water to Hong Kong. It does not include the cost of water conservation projects. So Guangdong Provincial Authority is in a position, okay, saying that Hong Kong should pay more, should pay for the cost of water conservation projects. As far as the Hong Kong government is concerned, the $3 includes everything. Okay, including the cost of supplying the water, including the cost of what? Implementing, conducting water conservation projects. That's one, again, disagreement. Okay. But the other research question, okay, pertains to this concept, ecological compensation. Ecological compensation is, again, a very Chinese concept. Okay. Outside of China, we use a different concept, payment for environmental services. Okay. But for payment for environmental services, okay, to take root in China, we need to, first of all, define the water rights. Okay, who owns what? Okay, right now, the water rights in China are not well defined. In theory, water belongs to the state. Okay, in actuality, it's really complicated. Yeah. So right now, it is not clear. Okay, how this could be. How this concept, payment for environmental services, could be sort of introduced in China, okay? Because what it means is that you have to first of all define the water rights so that some kind of market for water, okay, as a commodity could be developed. Then you can have this idea, this concept, payment for environmental services introduced, okay, to help basically pay for the cost of water resources conservation in upstream jurisdictions, okay. I think I should stop here and address questions. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank
you. Okay, we're going to do some questions. And can you take it to the gentleman in the very back? And just say your name and affiliation again so they might have forgotten from 30 minutes ago, 90 minutes ago, who you were.
Howard Wearda from CSIS. It was striking that neither speaker ever once mentioned Macau. It's hard to conceive that you could have a cooperative agreement without one of the principal stakeholders involved. And at the same time, you're dealing with a system that has a different legal system, a different administrative system, and different political relations with the mainland. So could someone tell me if Macau is excluded from this cooperative effort? Or if it is not, how you overcome these problems of legal system, administrative system that's so different from Hong Kong's own?
Actually, I think from a regional perspective, Macau should be part of the regional collaboration. But we consider that in terms of environmental issues, as far as Hong Kong and Guangdong are concerned, they have a set of common environmental pollution problems which have nothing to do with Macau. So I think there's one thing we can exclude Macau in this if we make the problem more well defined and difficult and easier to handle. So this is why we focus on this kind of issue like vehicular emission, like power plant, like water conservation. So we can they have two individual set apart cross-border collaborations to handle. Guangdong has one set to do with Macau, can also exclude Hong Kong. Guangdong can also exclude Macau, so we just focus on that. But we also look into the Macau environmental problem and find that the room for collaboration is not very promising. So because, for example, vehicle emission in Macau had no impact on Hong Kong, and also this development project too. So this is why we decide to make the job easier. Also, currently, when Hong Kong define cross-border environmental issues, they also work in the policy terms, work with Guangdong province, with seldomly involve Macau. I think this probably for research purpose is easier to do it. Of course, from a regional perspective, we can always redefine the scope, but we also see the limits. If you include Macau into it, should we also include other provinces into the so-called cross jurisdictions? Like the new concept is 9+2. So you want 9+2, so it's too big to handle. So we probably, especially from Hong Kong point of view, it's easier just to do with Guangdong province and find a way. At least if we can find a pattern to do it, we can extend it to see if it applies to Macau to solve the same issue. So this is our initial way of doing it. Like for example, U.S. and Canada, they do it U.S. Canada. They don't do it U.S. Canada and Macau and Mexico things. I think this is the same logic applied. So this is why we try to make the thing more easy to handle. We know that this is a difficult issue to do it.
Palmer from the National Academy of Sciences. And if we focus on industrial pollution, which I agree is very mostly unidirectional, going north to south, have you or are other people in Hong Kong looking at the role that Hong Kong investment has played in industry in Guangdong? Because obviously the pollution is coming from China, but that has been aided in some effect by Hong Kong's investment. Might that be another lever to reduce the amount of pollution if there are ways to increase the environmental responsibility of investment coming out of Hong Kong?
Kind of like cash and carry karma, right? Invested, got it back. Yeah? What do you guys say?
Actually, when we held the workshop inviting Guangdong government, Guangdong officials to take part, when we said that the pollution impact from the Guangdong province on Hong Kong is very serious, so they sometimes rebut that. Most of the pollutions are created from Hong Kong investment. So I think it's the echo to your story that I think that's probably part of the story. But because I think that's one of the incentive provided by the Guangdong province to invite Hong Kong manufacturer to set up their factory operation in Guangdong province. But actually, you are right. Hong Kong government and also Industrial Association, they are well aware of this problem that Hong Kong manufacturer has produced a lot of pollution that may in turn affect the environmental condition in Hong Kong. So recently, the Federation of Hong Kong Industry has launched a project known as 111 projects. They encourage the Hong Kong manufacturer in the Pearl River Delta regions to implement one environmental project in 1 year's time. So that they can accumulate to more. And also Hong Kong government also provide seeding monies for Hong Kong manufacturer to reduce their pollution. They were there. And also they work with the Guangdong province to try to help them by providing these environmental consultants services to help the individual companies to relieve their environmental impacts. I think there's some action on it. So yes or no? Yes, they are all well aware of that, but how far they can go still under evaluation. Actually, we have recently, I work with the Federation of Hong Kong Industry recently, have completed surveys of the Hong Kong manufacturer in the Pearl River Delta regions on this, to understand more about the corporate environmental management and corporate environmental strategy of this operation in China, in the Pearl River Delta region. We get some interesting findings, but since it's not part of our presentation here, but later we may do. We got a paper on this. So if you are interested, we probably release you our survey report, so which indicates some of interesting patterns. But to strictly answer to your question, yes, there's some collaboration between Hong Kong and Guangdong governments, hopefully to help Hong Kong manufacturers to reduce the pollution here.
Well, one thing to interject, I've noticed that over the last couple of years that there's been also more Chinese journalists that have been doing investigative reports of Hong Kong dirty industries in Guangdong. I'm wondering too, does the Hong Kong news media get involved in this as well, in this debate, or?
So Hong Kong is difficult. Yeah, I think Hong Kong reporter has also do some report, also investigate who are the culprits of this pollution. And there's a few reports in South China Morning Post and also in Main Post Daily. And also they discover that a lot of Hong Kong manufacturer has engaged in unlawful discharge and night discharge too. So I think so this is part of the story. But I think this is not all the conclusive. Actually, a lot of so-called private enterprises, in the Pearl River Delta region, getting larger in numbers, they also engage a lot of heavily in this unlawful discharge too. Of course, some Hong Kong manufacturers have done that too. But that's not the whole story.
May I add something? Yeah. I think we have to understand, to follow up on what Carlos has just already said about the actions originating from Hong Kong regarding what they can do to help clean up the Hong Kong operating factories, or Hong Kong-owned factories in the Pearl River Delta region. The voluntary scheme does not really work. Carlos mentioned the 1-1-1 scheme, meaning one factory, one project, 1 year. Basically the response from the Hong Kong-owned factories was
not very enthusiastic. Not that.
It was understatement. It was very poor. I think more than only like 100. Out of like 70,000. But I think there are like 70,000 Hong Kong-owned firms operating in the region. And then in the first year, the program was introduced. Less than 150, right? Only 120 firms are committed. I'm talking about one project, 1 year, one firm, And so what can you say? Second, Carlos also mentioned that the Hong Kong government has also introduced a program through the Hong Kong Productivity Council to help Hong Kong-owned firms to adopt cleaner technology, to reduce the pollution. Again, it's a pilot project introduced about 2 years ago. Last year, right? Again, it's very limited effort on the part of Hong Kong government. Now, but both the voluntary scheme and this government-initiated cleaner production scheme are not very effective, primarily because most of the firms owned by Hong Kong are small and medium-sized enterprises. They're not large firms. They're operating on a very small, it's not limited, limited resources. The SMEs do not have the capacity, technical or financial, to adopt some of this like technology, like clean technology. And I think we have to take that into consideration. Most of these firms are small and medium-sized enterprises operating in the Pearl River Delta region. In fact, compared with the efforts original from Hong Kong, I think the efforts by the provincial authority in Guangdong are a lot more effective in terms of controlling industrial pollution
from all these Hong Kong-owned firms. Okay, I mean, not to mention this increased labor cost. But this decision by the Guangdong Provincial Authority more than a year ago to upgrade the industrial structure in the Prefecture region, leading to decisions, okay, to impose higher costs of running a firm or factory in the Prefecture region, have led to the exodus of many firms outside the Prefecture region, actually outside of Guangdong province. Many firms are being given incentives, okay, to relocate to other provinces, to Guangxi province, to Jiangxi province, okay. And I think that decision on the part of the Guangdong province is a lot more powerful in terms of reducing overall industrial emission from the Prefecture region.
From the Environmental Protection Agency, Mark Caseman. And my question was regarding the discussions between the upstream and downstream communities on environmental services. And the question is there anybody brokering these, or is there any appropriate institution that can serve as an honest broker for these sorts of discussions? Or is there any interjurisdictional mechanism or authority that can play that role? And also, if you could amplify a little bit on public participation, besides the extra-jurisdictional functions that you talked about or going to the press, is the public being engaged, public communities being engaged in an official way at all?
As far as the first question about the intermediary, mediating the upstream, downstream jurisdictions negotiation, right now is the higher authority. Like, for example, in the case of Guangdong province, the upstream jurisdiction like Korean city government, okay, their grievances, okay, are being addressed by the Guangdong Provincial Authority, okay. So any idea that an ecological compensation scheme could be set up is being studied by the Guangdong Provincial Authority, because in the end they're going to pick up the bill. Yeah. So the ecological compensation scheme, okay, proposed by Korean City is being considered, has been considered for several years already. Yeah. And I think there's, as I said in the presentation, there's resistance by the Guangdong Provincial Authority to label that support they are now giving to Korean City as compensation, okay, because they haven't really come to that. They haven't solved all these basic problems, like who owns what, right? The water, does it belong to Korean? Basically, Korean City, as far as Guangdong Provincial Authority is concerned, Korean City does not own the water in the Senfengjiang Reservoir. That water belongs to the state. Yeah. So right now, I mean, not until all these like basic questions are fully addressed, I mean, I think it's going to drag on. I mean, this discussion regarding the ecological compensation scheme, I mean, whether or not it could be actually be put together as a feasible, okay, solution to this problem of bureaucratic conflicts between upstream, downstream jurisdictions. Your second question concerns, I forgot. Okay. You want to say something about that? Within, you're referring to public participation within the river basin, right? I think right now, in terms of public participation, we do not see major stakeholders being brought together, okay, on a regular basis, okay. For example, farmers, okay, or municipalities, to sort of like brought together under one roof, okay, so to speak, okay, and talk about how water resources could be managed in a more sustainable way. I think within China itself, the concept of integrated water resources management is being entertained at the national level. Okay, it's being considered in another river basin. I forgot which one. Yeah, but definitely not within the Dongjiang River Basin. I mean, because once that concept, integrated water resources management, is entertained, you have to bring in the stakeholders, including communities and all the other pertinent parties into the negotiation process. But right now, that's not. Right now, it's very much top down. Yeah, and as far as negotiation is concerned, it's very much like one-to-one. I mean, Guangdong Provincial Authority will negotiate with Hong Kong, will negotiate with Shenzhen, will negotiate with Korean, but not bringing all these parties together and say, hey, how can we sort of like improve our efforts in managing water resources within the river basin so that it's more sustainable.
I should note that in China they do have like 7 main river basin commissions, and they have smaller ones. There are no commissioners in the River Basin Commission. The concept of hearings, I think, but the one thing for public participation, though, that may be more cross-boundary, not just water, the EIA system. Yeah. Maybe you could say, I mean, because we know that, and we've heard stories that someone spoke last year talking about one of the highways and how on the Hong Kong side they had public hearings, so that everything was posted on the websites, and the Guangdong side, they went and interviewed like 50 people on the opposite side of the city that wasn't even where the road went, and that wasn't publicly disclosed. I mean, it was one of those, one of these things is not like the other. Would you want to say, can you say a couple words about the whole EIA process? Is there talk about trying to Hong Kong helping Guangdong on public hearings, etc.?
I mean, we should very briefly about to your questions. At current moment, I don't think they have as far as we know, there's no formalized institutional channel through which stakeholders or even government bureaucratic agencies can sit together to talk with each other how to solve the problems, especially in the cross jurisdictions situation. For example, it's no way that Xinwu should talk to Guangdong province. Even Guangdong province may not allow to talk with Jiangxi province government, so they need to do it through the central government. So I think this is the situation. Public participation, actually, when we learned from our visit to Xinwu and also to Hoyuan that increasingly they try to bring local citizens into the bargaining games. So they convey clearly to the local citizens why they are so restricted in their economic activity, so backward in their development, and arouse some sort of concern from the citizens, and then they bring this concern to the government, back to the government, provincial governments. So formally include the citizens into this process also, although in a less formal way. They try to use it as a leverage. They have to actually have done that. So this is the way they talk about public participation. Given that, I think another phenomenon that we found that in our study of environmental groups in Guangdong province, we find that NGO is particularly underdeveloped in Guangdong province. We don't know. We try to interview, to start to interview them. Most of them are very small, not well developed, or have even if for those with a better position, they have close link with the government. So actually, you can't find a lot of. So this is why it's difficult to have NGO participation in this process. So that's why individual stakeholders, non-governmental type stakeholders, are very limited in participating in the process. Go back to the EIA question very quickly. I mean, probably everyone study China know that the national government has already passed the legislations on EIA law, or prescribing that there must be a public consultation in every major project. But when we go to the lower levels, each government, each developer has their own way of doing the the public consultation. Some do it in a more more regular way, more structured way. Some do it in a more random. Just pick a few citizens around, household around, and then to file a report like that. So I think it's quite there's not a regular way of doing it. Increasingly, they try to prescribe a way to do it, but it takes time. Especially, I mean, even if you have done it, it's the whole mentality, as far as I learned from these leading government officials, they are not very positive about this input from the citizens, this so-called public consultation. They think that they are not, ordinary citizens, they know very little about environment, and they can't provide all the good feedback on this. So they just want to get some compensation. So this is what their mentality of doing things. But because of this, the lack of a well-institutionalized way and regular way of doing it, so it creates a lot of troubles. In some cases, in Shenzhen, it creates lawsuits. So a highway projects originally cutting through the residential area because of the limited public consultation when it was discharge when it was project was completed, citizens found that the noise level was unacceptable. So they filed a case accusing the EPD for not doing that good job in the consultation. So I think this is some of the way of doing it. And also, yes, given the close contact between Hong Kong environmental agency and the Guangdong environmental agencies, they increasingly Guangdong environmental agency has learned a number of ways to do public consultation in these development projects. But you can't expect that to change over the night. Especially when our concern is that increase. We don't know, but I read the newspaper in the last couple of months because we have a research area doing transboundary EIA, meaning that Hong Kong project or joint project, how they in the process of designing the project or designing on the public project proposal, they should get to know about the cross-boundary environmental impact on the other side. So we have a few cross-border environmental projects. One is, of course, is the bridge projects covering Hong Kong, Zhuhai, and Shenzhen, Macau, the jurisdiction. But I recently learned that not only Hong Kong peoples are concerned about the environmental impact of this cross-boundary project, because there is one chemical plants project in Guangzhou that probably have a very serious environmental impact in the regions. But Hong Kong, I learned from the newspaper that increasingly Shenzhen people, Guangdong people, they also aware of the project in Hong Kong that may have impact on them. So they also ask for more information about the project in Hong Kong, like highway project, like I think, as impacts on the other side of the border. So I think that may be quite fascinating, that in the sense that the popular pleasure, you can see the popular, although they may not have regular avenue for doing that, public pleasure has been increasingly visible, asking for more information about the environmental impacts of these development projects. So I think that probably go step ahead of the official channels. Before the official channel can entertain it. I think that's probably what we can see. So,
okay, got a question.
Mark Williams, and I'm from American University. I'm a graduate student in the Global Environmental Policy Program. And my question is, looking forward to the national government of China and how these cross-boundary or transboundary pollutions are taking place, do you think they're going to push for a legislative approach or market-based solutions to these kind of cross-border pollution issues?
Like first, what would be the...
Yeah, we see here that they're talking about property rights and who gets the water, but I haven't heard a lot about what maybe the national government is pushing or will push in the future.
Okay. I think they will do it on an ad hoc basis. So far, yeah, they can't do the. You already basically you make the point. In order for market solution to work, you have to define the property rights. And right now, as far as water is concerned, they have a hard time defining who owns what. Yeah, legislation. I think it's particularly problematic here in the peripheral region, yeah, because of the differences in the legal systems involved. The gentleman also mentioned at the beginning of the Q&A session that Macau is another jurisdiction and following another legal tradition. Yeah, so you have Hong Kong, you have Macau following two different jurisdictions, legal traditions, and how do they merge or integrated with the mainland legal system. So I don't think a legal approach is being actively considered because it's a lot more problematic. I think right now what they're doing here is that they address the problem sector by sector, okay, problem by problem. So under the framework worked out between Hong Kong and Guangdong province, they define 6 problems. And Dongjiang water quality is one of the 6 problems that Hong Kong and Guangdong governments are working on at the moment. The other being like air quality. Water quality of the water bodies shared by Hong Kong and Shenzhen, Mersey Bay and Deep Bay. and conservation, okay, or field standard, okay. So basically, what problem by problem. I mean, this is how they're working on the cross-boundary problems. Yeah. Now, market solution has been considered. Yeah. Emission trading is one example. But the scheme introduced several years ago has not yet been implemented, or has not yet been accepted, okay, by the power plants concerned. I mean, there was an emission trading scheme introduced by the Hong Kong and Guangdong government several years ago, but so far the two power companies in Hong Kong have not been receptive to the idea. I mean, that is one idea: use market to resolve cross-boundary pollution problem, but it's not being
I think
useful or what?
Yeah, I think fair to say that I think you can see that the collaboration across border has been still be quite primitive, not well defined. Although there's a lot of efforts to study the possibility of a regional legal regime for doing it, for regulating cross-border environmental production, but they still haven't worked out a proper approach how to reconcile the two sides. Do we need a legal? What kind of legal regime should we have within this one country, two system? Because Hong Kong and China are actually one country. So how do we do it? So they haven't been sure what to do, then how to do. I think they study it. So, and also the market instrument is quite tricky in two senses. One is that the market segment is not well developed in the Guangdong province, even though, I mean, Guangdong is step ahead of other provinces in the market development, but still very primitive, still dominant by state interest. So, secondly, one of the major problems for market operation is that you need information transparency. Yeah. You need a good institution set up to do it. But information is considered as a kind of secret operation by the government, because once you make the information transparent, there's two consequences. One, the first consequence is that there's a heavy burdens for environmental agents and other agencies to comply and release their data operations. That may invite criticism. And secondly, that if you make this transparent, then they need to supply information to Hong Kong, and Hong Kong reporter will make a story out of it. So I think that makes the Guangdong government officials very nervous, because we know that the central government keep an eye on Guangdong province, how they perform. Mm-hmm. That may be a source of assessments, national. So this is why they are not very keen to do the emission trading with Hong Kong. If you have to do the emission trading with Hong Kong, you need to provide the emission data. Mm-hmm. And also the cost operation. The whole thing have to disclose not only to Hong Kong government, but Hong Kong to the media as well. So that make them vulnerable, open to criticism. That's something they don't want to do it. So because the Hong Kong reporter will keep on saying that the Hong Kong government failed to meet the target. So that's probably the situation. They, in one word, they are not prepared to work on that transparent faction of government.
Okay, maybe you two both have just really quick questions. Can you grab the mic, please? Sorry. Just real quick, and then we'll have to adjourn.
I hope that my question is quick. I just want to learn a little bit more about the vehicle emissions side of the project, because I think, at least I think many people, when they're talking about China right now, the recent development in China in particular about like people like driving and increasing use of vehicle is one of the concern that it will be one of the key driver for greenhouse gas emissions in China. And China right now, I think more and more studies showing that China is the biggest emitter of CO2 exceeding US. So I just want to learn a little bit, maybe you guys may not be the right person to ask, but just tell us a little bit about whether the vehicle emissions part of the project covers CO2, and also has there been any exchange about like the way how Hong Kong has been managing their urban development and transportation management system? Has there been any exchange between China and Guangdong on that, so that they help to address their growing megacity as well as the demand for mobility?
And actually, can Rose ask her question? Then they can maybe combine them if they're combinable.
Is there any cooperation, data sharing, experience sharing between the Delta and the other 7 river basins? And is there any other cross-border with neighboring countries? and then the percentage of the industrial use, agricultural and whatever, and then the recycle of the water.
Okay. Major questions. Pick a little bit what you can, and then they'll tackle you afterwards for more answers.
Yeah. No, luckily we have just presented a paper on vehicle emission in China last week. So
last week. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, actually, you made the presentation. Yeah. First, answer Rose's questions. I think as far as the exchange of like experiences among the 7 major river systems. That may be going on, but we don't know. I mean, to what extent that's been going on within at the national level. I mean, organized by the Ministry of Water Resources. Yeah, as Jennifer mentioned, I mean, there are 7 water resources commission, but the 7 river basin commissions. But these river basin commissions, they are the they operate under the framework of the Ministry of Water Resources. So in a way, they are not okay. They're not designed to bring all together the stakeholders. Okay, they are not. They are not made up they are not made up as a committee, comprising different stakeholders within each river basin. Yeah. So it's basically an administrative arm, a body of the Ministry of Water Resources. Yeah. I forgot your second question. International. International boundary. You're talking about, I think, the Mekong River. Maybe. Yeah. That would be the one good example. Yeah. I don't see any connection so far regarding experiences, okay, gained from those international negotiations and being applied within the country, I mean, within, like, for example, Dongjiang or other river basin. Yeah. So go back. Well, definitely. Okay, when you talk about the recycling rate of industrial water, definitely in the northern part of China, they have done a much better job than southern China. In the south, like in the Guangdong province, in the Prefecture Delta region, water is so cheap compared to, like in the case of Dongguan, for example. Dongguan is about 2 yuan per cubic meter of water. Okay, I mean that's the water fee. Okay, that they have to pay. In Beijing, I think it's like 5 yuan. So it's about 2 times the cost of water in that people have to pay in northern part of China. Yeah, so there's a lot more incentives in northern China to implement water saving strategies, including technology to recycle industrial water. Yeah, a few words on vehicle emissions. Mm-hmm. Yeah, vehicle emissions are being controlled primarily by several methods. One is increasing the increasingly stringent emission standards. Okay, so right now, for example, in the case of China, they are now moving on to like National 3, equivalent of Euro 3 standard. Yeah, and in cities like Beijing, Guangzhou, in the last like 18 months, Guangzhou was trying to sort of like jump the queue in terms of like implementing a higher emission standard. Yeah, but that is the only emission standard is the only major instrument being used to control emission from increasing number of vehicles. As we know, the emission standard is only used to control the per car emission. Okay, doesn't really apply to the entire problem of vehicle emissions. Okay, primarily because more cars are being driven, and the cars are being driven longer distances. Okay, so this improvement, okay, in terms of emission, the reduction in emission by introducing a higher emission standard is being offset by this increase in mileage. Okay, and in the early part of at the turn of the century, like 2002, 2003, you register double-digit growth in terms of vehicle numbers in the Prefecture Delta region. Yeah, you talk about what? You talk about like 45% annual growth rate. Basically, it's amazing. Yeah, even now it's double-digit. Yeah, like 20% annual growth rate. And so, as far as vehicle emissions are concerned, it's going to get worse before it's going to get better. I mean, that's all I can say. Yeah.
Because of I think the structural problem, vehicle emissions, pollution is so different between Hong Kong and Guangdong province. I think they have not much.
Actually, on that, well, I'd like to end on an optimistic,
on an
up note. Yeah, on an up note. Because so far we're saying that it's kind of pessimistic. Okay, I mean, not much progress has been made. Yeah. since 2002, I think there's sort of like a breakthrough in terms of like addressing cross-boundary air pollution between Hong Kong and Guangdong province, I mean in the peripheral region. For the first time, okay, for the first time that Hong Kong was willing to spend Hong Kong money outside Hong Kong's boundary in Guangdong province. In the year 2002, Hong Kong government financed a regional study of air pollution. Well, in order to control air pollution, you need to have a database. You need to know the chemical and the physical pathways of air pollutants. Yeah, and in 2002, that's what happened. Yeah, a regional air quality study was conducted, financed by the Hong Kong government, and on that basis, they agree. I mean, Hong Kong government and Guangdong government agree to a common target in reducing 4 major pollutants by the year 2010. Okay, so in 2006, they conducted a midterm review. Hong Kong was making good progress, except one type of pollutant, and that's sulfur dioxide. Primarily because the power firms in Hong Kong in the last several years were using more coal, okay, to generate power, and that led to an increase in sulfur dioxide emission. Yeah, but the problem then is the challenge. Okay, is whether or not Guangdong Provincial Authority would be able to reduce those emissions in the 4 major types: RSP, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxide, and I think is it VOC?
Yeah.
Yeah, VOC. Yeah. By the year 2010. Yeah. So I'm sorry. Yeah. Actually, you asked a question. Carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is not one target pollutant in the cross-boundary scheme of reducing air pollution. Yeah. But the reason why I say it's an upbeat note is that since 2002, there intensified cooperation between Hong Kong and Guangdong province, particularly in terms of like air quality, but also in terms of water quality control in the Dongjiang. Yeah.
And actually, to end optimistic, just think of it: the Hong Kong government gave these guys money,